Hello everybody, we are going live today. It's Tuesday, so we do our weekly live with Michali, answering a question that's been posted on our forum. We're just going to wait for some of you to show up, and of course for Michali. Hello Michali. Let's see. I think I invited you, Michali. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Must have been a long week because it feels like a really long time ago that we did this, but it was just last week.
I know, isn't that crazy? And I was just thinking that I was like saying goodbye to people last night and I was just like, oh, have a good Shabbos. And I was like, oh wait, it's not Thursday, it's Monday.
So
It just felt like one of those weeks.
totally.
Um,
Alrighty.
got the question
Awesome.
I have right over here. I'm gonna just read it. So it's from Just Keep Swimming, and it says, I find that for me, it is very easy to compliment other people or to find the good in their accomplishments, even if it came along with a whole lot of quote unquote bad. Why is it that I can't seem to do this for myself? Every time I try to compliment myself, I feel cheap and unworthy. I'm only I'm only able to focus on my failures rather than accomplishments. How can I turn this positivity inwards to help with my own inner image and healing? Thanks in advance.
Such a good question.
Yeah, I love this question.
Yeah. I mean, like my first thought was like, oh, there are so many things you can do for self-love. And then as I was thinking about it more, I was thinking how like one of the things that you could love about yourself is that you find the good in other people. I mean, like so that's not something that everybody can say. Like a lot of people actually, even if they're critical of themselves, they're more critical of others,
hmm
and don't find the good. So I was thinking about that. And then of course there are so many different things for self-love that we can do. But what were your thoughts on this question first, I guess?
So, I mean, of course, I would have a million follow-up questions for this person, L'chaim. Um,
Yeah.
um, the first is just, like what do they feel? Like what is the challenge here? Like, is it the way that they talk to themselves that it's extra critical? Is it that it's an absence of positive but also an absence of negative? Like, I want to understand first if there's undoing that's necessary, like meaning to learn how to stop criticizing, and then learn how to compliment, or is it simply just like an absence of any compliments and they
Mm.
want to add that? But one book that really comes to mind is called Fierce Self-Compassion. I'm blanking out on the author's name.
Say it again. What's the title?
Um,
Fear?
fierce
Fear.
self-compassion.
Self-compassion. Okay.
Yeah,
Heard of it.
and yeah, and but like that, kind of like just like you should totally judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
um, like the title suggests, it's not about lying to ourselves. Like this comes up a lot when like with body image, right? It's not about like looking in the mirror and being like, oh my gosh, that part of my body that really bothers me, I love it, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're supposed to be doing necessarily, because as that person said, like, just keep swimming, that it's not going to necessarily hit, and it feels fake,
Right.
right?
You just
But
come the way you truly feel. So it's like not
exactly.
come through as honest to your subconscious or conscious.
Exactly. And so in order to make things stick, it has to feel authentic and it has to feel realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It might also come with a whole host of other emotions like awkward or uncomfortable, and those things need to be processed as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when it's very realistic, like let's say, just using the analogy of like body image stuff, like if there's a part of the body that the person does not find to be attractive to their standards or whatever, to still tap into appreciation for what that part does
Mm-hmm.
for the person, right? So if it's, let's say, a person doesn't like their arms, and to tap into, well, my arms enable me to do X, Y, and Z, and I really am grateful for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that when it comes to like ourselves as a whole, there are going to be plenty of things that we do not like about ourselves, and that's okay. Like not every single part of ourselves is colorful and bright and easy, but to accept that with love and
Yeah.
self-compassion. And self-compassion doesn't mean to not be realistic. It means saying, "Oh yeah, I see those parts of you that are darker and bleaker, but you know what? Like if you were my kid, I would just, give you a hug and be like, okay, let's figure out how we can work through these things. And some of it we might decide not to, but
So you're saying
speaking
like
with that warmth.
so you're saying you might want to meet this person. Like me, you're saying this questioner is maybe coming from a place of like before self-love, there needs to be more self-compassion, depending on like what those things are, like that are making
Yeah.
self-love so difficult.
I think self-compassion fosters self-love.
Mhm. It's
You
like a
know, I
prerequisite.
think, yeah, and I think that is also a lot of us self-abuse, where like the way that we talk to ourselves in our heads is so abusive.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we talk to ourselves in a
Mhm.
compassionate way, then we learn to respect ourselves in a certain way, and then from that place we form love, like kind of like any relationship, right? If you think about a potential spouse, you don't love them right away, far from it, but you start to get to know them, you start to respect them, you start to appreciate things about them, and over time that can balloon into love. And so
Mhm.
it's the same thing with ourselves. I think paying attention to our inner dialogue is a really important first step, that self-compassion that I was talking about, and then also putting in actions that are consistent with that, right? So making sure that when you talk about yourself to others, you're not putting yourself down. Another thing is receiving compliments. If someone says, gives you a compliment, don't put it down. Instead, just, as hard as it
Try
is,
to
say,
accept it.
thank you so much. Yeah. Things like that, like even if you don't feel it, but getting to the habit of protecting yourself and nurturing yourself, I think can really help along,
And
the self-love.
on that line, I love what you're sharing, and I think that one like great practice to do is to write down like 5 things that you love and appreciate yourself every single day. And in the beginning, it
Hmm.
might be really difficult, but then it's like you're building a muscle. And the same way that you can, and it's like love and appreciate. So it doesn't even have to be like these are things that you love about yourself, like qualities only, but it could be something that you appreciate. You appreciate that you have a body that moves. You appreciate that you have a mind that works. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that that can be, I think that that's a skill that people are taught to do for other people. I know I've used that in my life. Like we're all like, like mentally even think about 5 things that I love and appreciate about somebody that I want to have a close relationship with. And it's worked wonders. And doing it for yourself does the same magic. Like really, building that muscle of like, no matter what, I have always things that I love and appreciate about myself that like
I,
anchors.
I love that. I love that. And then just in terms of like actions, because I know, you and I tend to be more behavioral, which I like, it's so much fun. I think that also like, self-care falls into that, like self-love,
Mhm.
right? And I think you said this, I don't know if it was this week or last week, that self-care, or maybe it was, what, I think it was Shaya.
Mhm.
Um, I used to, like that it doesn't necessarily feel good. It's
Yeah.
not like if
I
you
think
go
it's
to the
one of
gym.
our posts. It could be Shy said it too. But
Oh
there's
yeah?
self-care
Okay.
doesn't
I'm like, I don't
have
remember where I
love.
saw it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of like when you go to the gym. If you ask any person who's like a serious gym rat, does it feel amazing to push, to lift that weight?
Hmm.
In that moment, it does not feel physically amazing.
Hmm.
But what does feel amazing is taking care of the body,
Hmm.
pushing through, mental, obstacles, and the feeling that a person gets afterwards.
Hmm.
That all feels amazing. But real self-care when you're showing up does not always feel amazing. Oftentimes it's like pushing yourself. And so I think that when it comes to self-care, that can also create self-love. And I think that that is so huge. Like self-care when it comes to your physical self, your emotional self, your spiritual self, and then really being protective over those things.
Hmm.
I think that can give yourself the message of like, oh, like I am worthy. I'm taking
Hmm.
all this time and investing all these resources to
To myself.
tell myself I'm worthy.
Correct. And being
Yeah.
consistent with it. Like just the simple act of being
Yeah.
consistent about something that's selfish, so to speak, builds self-love because it's like I'm worth being consistent. I can stick to something and be committed to something that just has to do with my mental health, physical health, emotional health, financial health, whatever it is. So even if
Exactly.
it's like taking that
Exactly.
skill, that behavioral skill, and doing, writing down 5 things that you do that you love and appreciate about yourself every day, like being consistent with that. You don't have to want to do it. You don't have to appreciate doing it. You don't have to even feel good after you do it. But the act of doing it is going to penetrate something deeper.
For sure, for sure. And like the last thought I have about this is like one of my supervisors, I remember she told me that it's Dafka when with the area that you're struggling with,
Mhm.
that's when the self-compassion should start, right?
Mhm.
So it's when you do look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I cannot believe that outfit doesn't fit me or whatever it is, right? Or oh, I cannot believe I said that to that person. Like, why did I say that? I always did it out, right? When we start thinking those things, that is specifically the opportunity to talk to ourselves in a loving and compassionate way, and to
Flip,
say,
flip that.
oh, like, come here, like, body, I love you. Even if you're not perfect, I'm gonna take care of you. Or
Mhm.
come here, temper, even if you're very hard to deal with sometimes and you hurt my relationships, I love you. I'm gonna take care of you. It's specifically in those moments that you want to show up for those parts of yourself.
Love that. That's so beautiful. I really like that. That's very cool.
Right? Like, I was like,
I
oh my
didn't hear
gosh,
that
that's a
like
good
in that
point.
clear way, and I really like that. Like exactly when you catch yourself being critical of whatever your pattern
Yeah,
is the time to like flip it and to be loving towards that exact thing.
exactly. To hug
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, awesome. Thank you for
exactly.
speaking, everybody, and thank you, Michali, for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, guys.
Fun question.
So lovely to see
There's so
you.
much to say on this, but like I think we kind of, gave a couple of good, really solid points and direction.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
I totally agree.
Have a good rest of the day,
See you,
everybody. And Michali, see you next week.
see you next
Take
week.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.